Licensed games are always a dicey experiment. On the one hand, you get horrible, horrible messes such as E.T., Aliens Colonial Marines, and Superman 64. And then you get masterpieces such as the Batman Arkham series, Transformers War and Fall of Cybertron, and today's review, Telltale Games' The Walking Dead Season 1.
Taking place in the same universe of the comic of the same name by Robert Kirkman, Telltale Games' version of the overused zombie cliché casts you in the role of Lee Everett, a university professor being sent to prison after murdering a Georgia state senator for having an affair with his wife. On his way to prison, Lee is involved in a car accident due to the incoming invasion of walkers or zombies, if you will. Not knowing what's going on, he soon runs into a little 8-year-old girl named Clementine, who unbeknownst to her at the time is recently orphaned, leaving Lee and her to set off on a journey across Georgia in an effort to find her parents.
Didn't do it then.
Along the way, you meet all sorts of strange and colorful characters. Some are friendly and will help you, while others have all sorts of ulterior motives. One thing you learn is that you are never quite sure who is trustworthy.
I didn't do it.
The whole gameplay experience is set up as a partial point-and-click adventure, and not being anywhere near as puzzle-based as some of Telltale's earlier titles were, including Sam and Max's Adventures, Strong Bad's cool game for attractive people, or their Back to the Future season. Instead, it relies heavily on dialogue and interactions with other people. Your decisions carry a great weight in this game, with how you talk to people and how you react to surprising situations coming into play later in other episodes as well as in the second season.
I go in for that.
Like most Telltale titles, The Walking Dead is episodic, where you have to buy each individual episode costing around $5 a piece to get the whole story. It may feel a bit unfair or pricey, but for a compelling story, it's worth it. Or, if you don't want to do that, you can wait for a complete retail edition to become available because Telltale always has one at some point. This edition on PS4 and Xbox One comes with all 5 episodes, plus the DLC content 400 Days, bridging the gap between The Walking Dead Seasons 1 and 2.
The first thing I really liked about this game is that the story is completely original. It's based in the same universe as The Walking Dead, such as the TV show, but it's more from the comic book perspective, which the show is based off of. I mean, that's not to say you don't see a few familiar faces showing up, like Glenn makes an appearance in the first episode, and then Herschel Green also. But sadly, they're not voiced by their voice actors in the show. They're just there, and then they're on screen, and then they have to go do something, and then they leave. It's just a cameo, basically. Like, okay, this is a Walking Dead game. I also like how graphics-wise it's phenomenal for how it looks. It's not like, pushing it to the limit, like the new Assassin's Creed coming out with Unity. I mean, it's cartoonish, it's cel-shaded, but it looks phenomenal. I've been playing it on the PS4 version lately, and you can tell there's really a bump on new-gen hardware, which I didn't really need it. I just figured when I bought it that, it'll just be the same graphics. No, they actually did go in there and fix it a little bit, so it does shine. I mean, it's not going to look as pretty as some of the other games, but I loved how graphically superior it looked, and it really fits it with the cel-shadedness because it's a comic book game, really, so it has a comic book feel and look. And I like how Telltale is continuing that with The Wolf Among Us, and they're doing that the same kind of thing, because that's another comic book. The main thing about this game, though, is the choice system, which is phenomenal. It's not as expansive as something like Mass Effect, but it serves its purpose. I mean, each decision is harder than the last when you play through this, especially the final decision in the 5th episode of the season. I mean, if you don't come away from that emotionally impacted, you miss the point. I won't spoil it or anything, but let's just say you'll be on the verge of tears or crying by the time you finish that, because it was so hard to make that decision, and they make it even worse by having a timer. Like, there's this little meter along most conversations where you have to pick what you're going to say, and there's this little meter that slowly ticks down. Otherwise, if you don't, then Lee is just quiet, your main character. And so you got to think, okay, which is the best decision for me for this character? Am I going to be more sinister and gruff and rough, or am I going to be a nice guy and try to help everybody and be neutral? I also like how the dark nature and tone really sets this game apart from other Telltale projects such as Sam and Max or Strong Bad. I mean, that's not to say there isn't any humor. There is. It's just spread out very thinly and just every once in a while, like this scene.
You know how to pick a lock, right?
No. Why would you say that?
Well, you're, urban?
Oh, you are not saying what I think you're saying.
Jesus, man, I'm from Florida. Crazy shit just comes out of my mouth sometimes.
Despite being a phenomenal experience in a game, there are a few things in this game that don't work as well as they could have. Like, for example, there are some shooting sequences that are not designed very well. And you have to, aim your gun, and it's very sensitive, and sometimes you move the stick just a little too much, and you're going to go that way or that way, and then you miss and you end up getting killed by a walker or a bandit or something. So those could have been left out and just had as cutscenes or something, or as time button presses or QuickTime events. I mean, there are other QuickTime events in here. They could have just implemented that in there somewhere. And then there's a few other minor technical hiccups, like I was playing on the PS4 and I noticed the sound when I finished an episode. Each episode has credits, so it would cut out for a few seconds, then come back on. Then that's one thing I noticed. And then some other animation errors. But those are minor. There's nothing game-breaking. So because of that, I award The Walking Dead Season 1 a 9.5 out of 10, because it's just phenomenal, and it's just amazing that this studio, Telltale Games, went from being a studio that pretty much nobody heard of, or they made just, a few little games here and there, like Sam & Max, Monkey Island, Strong Bad's Cool Game for attractive people. They turned into a AAA studio overnight with this, and now they got Tales from the Borderlands coming out, hopefully sometime this year, which is based off the Borderlands license if you're a gamer. And also, they're coming out with a Game of Thrones game at some point. I think that's also this year, which we've not seen anything of it. Just one ambiguous trailer. So hopefully they can keep the steam going and just create some more phenomenal experiences. Remember, if you like this video, to subscribe, like, and share.